What is going on out there? Peace, man. Plenty of reason to be excited today. We're going to cover that, all right? But you guys keep bombarding me with stuff that people say. Here's the thing, I don't watch that much of other YouTubers' channels, so who cares what they say? So look, there's gurus out there, and I can't stand any gurus out there who mislead and lie to the people. Like last summer, we had one of them say, oh, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. The rate change is going to happen. It never happened. We have a guru who said that God told him a specific date and rate. It never happened. Then we were told that when the auction and the ISX reopens, the rate change will be there, and it never happened. Then we were told through gematria, magic numbers, that there was going to happen. It never happened. So you see, if you keep throwing enough crap against the wall, one day it's actually going to happen. Then that person's going to go, see, I was right all along. Yeah, okay, whatever. So that's why I don't care about what the other person says, you guys. There's no need. Look, everybody has opinions. Just let them go out there. For everybody, trust me when I tell you this, everything is speculation. Nobody knows for sure. So if you have one person throwing enough crap against the wall, something's bound to stick. So who cares what the other person says? Seriously, that dude looks like he chews gum off concrete. So stop worrying about what he says. Anyways, nonetheless, let's get into this, because if you're considering buying precious metals, please give our friends over at Money Metals Exchange a consideration. The link is in the description. If you buy more than $100 worth of precious metals, use promo code Pimpy, Pimpy, and get your free half ounce of silver. We have Pimpy's investment chat. It's the same name as the YouTube channel. I will encourage you guys to come on over here, because we do talk about investment opportunities, gold, silver, cryptocurrencies, as well as foreign currency investments. No politics. Bring that over to this site, which is the hidden things in front of your eyes. That's the second group that we have. In here, you can't talk about politics. You could talk about QAnon. You could talk about current events. You could talk about false flag events, the whole thing, 9/11 chemtrails. Come join me over here on Twitter. I now have a Twitter account. The link is in the description. Let's get into what's going on, because there is a lot of news. So let me just get all the things we already know about out of the way. We know that Al-Qademi is going to be going over to Erbil. This is going to be his first visit. But I have a feeling why he's going this time is I think we're going to see this agreement get signed. I really do. We know it has to be done. This agreement between Erbil and Baghdad must be done before they can move forward with a budget, any kind of budget whatsoever. Because in there, the agreement has to be what is the revenues and the dues. Also, what each person agrees to bring to the table. All right. So all the different things, security, you know what I mean? Paying the salaries of the employees, which God bless them, man. They've been coming to work now for years, it looks like, without payment. So I don't know how they manage. I don't know how they do it, but they do. All right. So Al-Qademi's there. He's there in person. Let's see what becomes of this. I'm expecting good things. Okay, so this person's saying that the environment right now between Erbil and Baghdad seems very positive. I think so. Again, we are going to be talking about a couple of budgets here, and also some other news regarding the exchange rate. The election law is ready for implementation after determining the electoral districts for the provinces. Okay, so the only thing keeping this from being implemented fully was they wanted to decide where the districts, where they were lined up at. Okay, of course, as you can imagine, there are forces planning to challenge the election law after its publication, and some political forces want not to hold elections. Why do you suppose that is? Well, those are the Iranian-backed politicians that know that the people have been protesting. They're tired of the corruption, and they're tired of being ran by Iranian-backed puppets. They're going to vote them the hell out of the office. So they're going to fight tooth and nail to try to maintain their position of power, as you can well imagine. So Iraq, $148 trillion, the size of the 2020 budget, and $40 for barrels. So here's what's going on. They need to get this 2020 budget in there, but here's the real reason why it's important for the 2020 budget to get implemented. Because in this 2020 budget is going to be the new promotions. These people are getting job promotions is what's happening, all right? In addition to that, they're getting raises, finally. You know what I mean? So in addition to promotions and raises and making sure the agreement between Erbil and Baghdad is ironed out and put into the 2020 budget so they can get everything transferred over and ready for the 2021 budget. Okay, I know a lot of you have been told that the 2020 budget has the new rate change. It's the 2021 budget that looks like it's going to have the new rate change. See, the 2020 budget must be hammered out now. There's some reform papers coming, and we'll get into that in just a second, okay? So again, in here, the purpose of getting this taken care of is making sure that the employees' promotions, raises, and the dues and revenues between Erbil and Baghdad are included in the 2020 budget so they can be carried over into the 2021 budget, all right? So we have a bridge budget is what it looks like. Trump doing what he said he was going to do, another promise kept. So when Al-Kadhimi and Trump talked, Trump said 3 years and then we'll have our troops removed, possibly sooner. Well, we didn't know it was going to be this damn soon. Anyways, Trump announces the reduction of U.S. troops in Iraq on Wednesday, but not just Iraq, Afghanistan and Germany as well. He told everybody he was going to bring the troops back. So that's what this is about, okay? So the United States has around 5,200 troops that were deployed to Iraq to fight ISIS. So it looks like he's going to reduce them by 4. Is that right? No, 4,000. He's reducing the number of troops in Afghanistan by 4,000. There's currently 8,600 there. Okay, so Trump's doing what he promised. He's bringing them home. We're ending all these endless wars and all these regime change and the occupying of other countries. So this is good. Good news. Promises kept. Promises made. Promises kept. An economist reveals important information about the benefits of a bank and its involvement in merchants and citizens in them. Yes, of course this is important. In order for you to have a very strong economy, you're going to have banks that you could deal with. As I told you before, after decades of getting screwed over by banks for one excuse after another, whether it was Hussein, and then a new government took over that was corrupt, and then all of a sudden ISIS came along. These people got decades of being screwed over by having their money in the bank. So you can understand why they're really concerned when it comes to dealing with the bank. But the bank's doing everything it can to make sure that the citizens start using it again, trusting it again, and that's going to be a key role to what's happening in the economy. Not to mention the fact that I personally have stock I own in Al Rashidi and Al Rashidi banks. All right, so obviously I want them to do good. I'm cheering them on. You guys do what you need to do. All right, so let's get them people in there, start using the bank. Of course, I'll benefit from it. Of course. So economy news publishes the cabinet's decision that include borrowing from Saudi Arabia. So again, Al-Kadhimi in here kicking ass. You could go see what all the money's going to be going to before they used to go to these projects that never got completed. Excuse me. So here's what we're talking about. So some of the money's going to go to make sure that the youth sports are available. Some of it's going to go over to make sure that there's a construction of a hospital in Anbar. Some of this money is going to go over to do what it can for the, aviations, the electric grid, making sure that the airports are rebuilt. What else? Transportation is what we're looking for. Okay, so yeah, these are all the things that they're going to. This is what we're talking about. This is what needs to be done. So we're talking about rebuilding the infrastructure and a lot of different projects over there. I believe they were talking about, there's something in the neighborhood of about 6,000 projects. We'll get to that in a minute. Cooperation between the state institutions and Al-Kadhimi and Talibani at the table. Again, they're there. I have a feeling why Al-Kadhimi is there is this agreement is done. We just need to sign. All right, that's just my feeling. Because before it's just the delegations talking with one another, although Barzani has been over here to talk to, and Talibani as well, Al-Kadhimi, but Al-Kadhimi is going there. This needs to be done. No 2020 budget or 2021 budget are going to happen without this comprehensive deal ironed out, period. So right here talks about the Ministry of Finance, talking about the rate change. We'll get to that here in a second, all right? Under the dome of the Parliament, Minister of Finance discloses the reason for the delay in the reform papers. I wanted to cover that first. So, during the meeting, the Finance Minister, Alawi, made it clear during his attendance at the Parliament session that the reason for the government's delay in not sending the government's reform paper to Parliament was the lack of completion of the domestic and foreign borrowing law to bridge the fiscal deficits for the year 2020. The government did not borrow any external amounts and only borrow locally. The government dispersed all internal borrowing funds, according to the Ministry of Finance. Alawi said, according to the parliamentary source, the government will present the reform papers to Parliament and other concerned parties at the end of this month. So the reform papers are going to be submitted at the end of September. And in the reform papers, there's going to be the new rate change. So see, the 2020 budget will not have a rate change. The 2021 budget will. According to Alawi, the government is working to stop the waste of public money at all levels, and that this will be guaranteed in the economic reform papers. And Iraq had resorted to borrowing to contain the financial crisis that resulted from the significant decline in oil prices during the past months due to the Rona, which paralyzed large sectors of the world's economy. So, here's what he's saying. The paperwork will be submitted for reform by the end of this month. It has to be reviewed. It's going to be submitted. Man, there is a lot of things happening between now and the end of this year. I mean, everywhere around the world. Gold, silver prices. We're keeping an eye on whether or not they remove the United States dollar as the world's reserve dollar. Whether this is the time that Trump is going to push us into the new gold back into the gold standard. It looks like Iraq now is finally going to pull the trigger on this rate change. How much it is, we don't know. Okay? Another great chunk of news, the influential parties no longer control the prime minister. That's right, Al-Kadhimi is his own man. In a special statement to the news, said that influential parties are trying to recycle the same former faces accused of corruption to fill high government positions. Then he indicated that these parties are accustomed to managing the files of the prime minister, adding, but they cannot do that as before, because Al-Kadhimi ain't letting them in there. They're not controlling him. He's his own man. So all those same corrupt politicians that's been there for some time, you can understand they're losing their grip on power, and they're not thrilled about it. And these are the same Iranian-backed puppets. They're also all under investigation. So yeah, these people have no influence over Al-Kadhimi. This is another great step. The international community should be very proud of this. Now let's get to the great news that I know you're all excited about. The Minister of Finance stresses the necessity to reviewing the exchange rate of the dinar and reveals the size of the external budget. So the Ministry of Finance Alawi revealed today, Tuesday, the size of the external debts owed by Iraq, while confirming that carrying out concrete economic reforms needs 5 years by finding new alternatives for revenues. During his hosting of the House of Representatives. So whatever these reform papers are is a 5-year plan. Now I told you guys about this about a month, 2 months ago maybe, and it was a couple of my videos that I seen a lot of CBI minutes. And in there was a lot of debate between the CBI and the IMF when they were talking to the government of Iraq. The CBI, as well as with the IMF, were talking around a rate of about $1.13 up to about $1.34 or $1.37, somewhere in that neighborhood. The CBI was saying, hell no, we want our original rate of $3.22 reinstated. I had a discussion with my friend. He is an economist. He teaches out of Stanford. When we first talked about it, he says, no, I think the CBI is right. It should be somewhere around $1 for the $14, $1.34 or so, somewhere in that neighborhood. All right. And the reason is they can't be too high or too low, or else they can't be competitive when it comes to trade. About a month or so later, he comes back to me. He goes, wait a minute, I changed my mind. I said, what do you mean? He says, I'm agreeing with the Iraqi government. He says they should have their rate instated, the full rate. And I says, why is that? He says, Lee, they have nothing. They have nothing. They have to rebuild from scratch all the way back up. So there's no stress on whether or not they can be competitive internationally on trade because they have nothing. They have to rebuild their entire country. And because of that, I think I agree with the CBI Bank. They should reinstate the rate and then buy all the materials because it increases their purchasing power. And this will allow them to buy all the materials necessary or have imported to them all things necessary to rebuild the country. Okay? And I said, okay, cool. About a month after that, a news article comes out from an economist in Iraq saying the same damn thing my friend says. Same thing. If it goes too low, it affects the poor people. They can't raise it too high because it would hurt trade. The guy said there needs to be a sweet spot, is what the economist from Iraq talked about. And then all of a sudden, towards the end of his article, he says, but in this case, no. They need to increase or implement the rate that was taken from them because Iraq has nothing to lose. They need to build from the ground up. So I have my friend saying the same thing as this economist. The articles came out, after we had a discussion, I had made those videos. And so it looks like they might be on the same page. We don't know what the rate change is going to be. We just know that the rate change is going to be part of the reform papers and it's going to be part of the 2021 budget, it looks like, okay? So we need this agreement between Erbil and Baghdad to be hammered out. It has to be part of the budgets. We know this, the revenues and the dues. We also know that the 2020 budget needs to be figured out and put out there because in that 2020 budget is the promotions and salaries, the new salaries for the employees. And that all is going to be implemented into the 2021 budget, including the rate change, it looks like. Let's continue. The media department at House of Representatives published the proceedings of the Parliament session held today and quoted the Minister of Finance as saying that the economic reforms program needs a long time to be presented because the economic situation in Iraq is going through a critical situation due to the repercussions of previous cumulative economic policies that the Iraq state passed since the 1950s. That's how far back. The last century, and so far, especially the legislation of the law on agriculture reform and the decisions of the socialist package, in addition to the loss of economic vision that weakened the private sector and made all resources in the hands of the government. That's what socialism is. That's what the Democrats want to implement here in our country. You can see it fails everywhere. So the Ministry of Finance added the current government suffers from a scarcity of funds that forced it to borrow internally and externally and cannot implement the presentation of the paper within the period specified by the law voted upon, noting that the specialized team has been formed with the cadre of 40 employees working continuously to work on preparing and presenting the required paper. Despite the current health conditions indicating that the reasons for delaying its submissions are technical and historical, setting the ceiling for the government's submission of the first negotiation reform papers at the end of this month. So the first submission is at the end of the month, while the reform papers is presented in its final form in the middle of next month. That's how you know the rate change is not going to be in the 2020 budget, because the reform papers won't be submitted till the end of this month, and the finalized draft won't be pushed until the middle of next month. The 2020 budget must come out before then. So it looks like the rate change is going to be part of the 2021 budget. So here's why. In turn, the Ministry of Planning indicated during the sessions the presence of 6,250 projects under construction that need to provide 126 trillion dinars to complete them, and the large number of projects causes the failure to include any new projects in the new budget law. So a lot of these new projects and fake projects were created, and the corrupt people were stealing the money from them. So they're just sitting there, but they need the money. They need to keep going. A lot of these projects were there and created to help bring additional revenues into Iraq. So look, 6,250 projects Holy smoly, man. See, if the money's too low, they're going to suffer from inflation because they're going to have to print out tons of money just to have purchasing power to implement materials needed to do so. This is why the rate change must happen. This is why it must be increased so they have more purchasing power. Explained that the delay in the completion of the projects led to the failure to provide services for citizens, including the existence of 42 unfinished housing complexes that need to be accurately recounted in order to begin their implementation, in addition to the necessity of developing a real reform plan to address the delay in the implementing projects. Commenting on the two ministers' answers, the need to fully and not partially implement the legislative law, questioning the value of internal and external borrowing and the size of what is allocated to pay salaries or in the investment sector, as well as knowing the value of the exchange rate specified in the next budget. Alawi pointed out there were three types of loans, including commercial that the Iraq government has moved away from, borrowing from governments, and the third by borrowing from international development institutions such as the World Bank and the Arab Fund for the purpose of investment, especially those related to the requirement of improving the electrical sector by activating previous economic agreements with Siemens and General Electric, stressing the importance of reviewing the exchange rate so that the Iraq economy enters the circle of competition with the interest of the Internal Monetary Fund in the issue of the exchange rate, noting that the ministry received an amount of 15 trillion dinars in full to meet the needs of the salaries. See, they have to be able to compete. They are building from the ground up. They are rebuilding. So they need to increase their purchasing power. Now, just because we hear this does not mean we know what the rate is going to be. But we obviously know it needs to increase. We've seen several economists say that if they lower the rate, it hurts the poor. So we know they're not going in that direction. We know they need to fund a bunch of projects. And if they do it with the current rate, it's going to cause super inflation. They can't keep affording to borrow money when all they have to do is increase their purchasing power. So yeah, it looks like we're finally here. They're actually saying it. This is the first time we heard anything about exchange rates in quite some time, you guys. So let's go down a list of what we need to see happen. Erbil and Baghdad have to have their agreement ironed out. They have to. It's part of the budget, period. The revenues and dues. So that's going to be done here shortly. We have to go ahead then and we have to see the reform papers will be submitted. And in there is going to be a discussion of the rate change. In addition, we need them to pass the 2020 budget because in the 2020 budget is the agreement with Erbil and Baghdad, plus the employees getting promoted and a much needed raise is going to be in the 2020 budget, which is then carried over into the 2021 budget. All right, you guys do the Pimpy dance. It looks like we're there. All right. Oh, man, you got to be thrilled at it. Finally, now, again, don't get overly excited. We don't know what the rate is. Okay? But at least it looks like we have some kind of window. It seems between now and the end of this year, we will see something happen. Once again, just let me remind you guys, because you guys kept asking me where to go and buy Iraqi Dinar and Vietnam Dong. Well, here you go. I told you I was only buying it from one location, which was Exchange of America. And then somebody brought this website to my attention. And, you know, anytime it's not in the United States, it makes me nervous. Okay, so I did order from them. I did get my order. I was thrilled about it. But when I was placing my order, I told you what had happened. Everybody knows that I got Pimpy as my profile, but there's another one that has my real name on it. So when I put my order in, the guy said, "Hey, aren't you Pimpy?" And I said, "Yeah." So he actually listens to my show. So that was exciting too, as well. And then anyways, he said, "Look, I heard you say in one of your videos that you don't have a place or you don't know any places right now in which people go buy the Iraqi Dinar or the Vietnam Dong." I says, "Yeah, that's why I'm trying your site out here." It's kind of makes me a little concerned that he's over in the UK. I was happy that he did deliver to the United States. He goes, "We deliver internationally everywhere." I said, oh, okay. And he said, so just tell your subscribers if they are looking to buy Vietnam Dong or Iraqi Dinar, they're more than welcome to come and check us out. And as an additional incentive, if you go to the discount code and you put in Pimpy, Pimpy, they will reduce the cost down a little bit. Any savings is better than no savings. So that was nice enough of them. It was nice of them to do that, you guys. So if you are looking for a place and you can't find anywhere that's trusted to go buy some Iraqi dinar, maybe you'll consider them. They are international, but I did get my package, so I'm not, again, I was really happy about that. So anytime you're dealing overseas, it does make me a little nervous. But nonetheless, they came through. So I told them once I got my package and I guess he was legitimate, then I have no problems with it whatsoever. So the link for this company will be in the description. So if you're looking to buy more Iraqi dinar, don't get crazy out there, people. All right. You know what I mean? We're talking now about a rate change possibly happen, but it doesn't say by how much. So I don't want people going all willy nilly out there and then, buying hundreds of millions of dinars and then, the rate change isn't what you think it is, but make no doubt about it. It's being discussed now. It's going to be in the reform papers, and it's going to be in the 2021 budget. All right, so be excited. Do the pee-pee dance. All right, you guys, that should be every reason in the world to smash the like button. And if you're not a subscriber, then why the hell not? Hit the subscribe button. All right, and I'll catch you later.